I came across this article today on the WP Minute Discord server. It was written by Matt Watson over at wpals.co, and he talks about creating a custom block for WordPress. I thought it was a nice article, and I thought it would be a fun challenge to see if I could use Wicked Block Builder to approximate the block that he creates in this article. And by the way, if you want to read the article, the link is in the video description. So in this article, he shows how to create a block that looks something like this. It's got this image on the left, and then a content box over on the right with a summary, and then a link that's uppercased with an underline. He also created a couple different style variations. The block can have an image, or if it doesn't have an image, then this content area will fill up the whole space. And in addition, he created a couple different styles where you can either have a border or not have a border for this content area. So that would be a fun challenge to see if I could create something similar with Wicked Block Builder. So let's give it a shot. So I'll add a new block. He called his owl link, so I'll call it the same thing. Let's add some attributes. It has an image, so I'll add an attribute for or to hold the image ID. And then let's add an attribute for the content. And another attribute for the link. So now we need to create the editor view. So let's go look back at the article, and he actually has the markup for the block shown here. Just need to scroll down to it, and it's right here. So his markup basically looks something like this for the block. So it starts with a div. So let's add a div. And it's not shown here, but he does use this owl link class to style it. So let's add that to the div. And next he has an image. So we'll add an image component. And also not shown here, but in the CSS there is a class applied to that image, this owl link image class. So I'll add that to the image. And I need to map the image to the image ID attribute as well. So I'll do that. And if we jump back over to his markup, next he has another div. This one has a class of owl link content. So add that. And within that, he has some paragraph text. So let's add a couple rich text components to handle this. Add a rich text for the summary and map it to the content attribute. Give it some placeholder text. And we'll make it a paragraph tag, and we'll leave the bold and italic formatting turned on. And he also had a link, so let's add a rich text for the link. And we'll make this one a paragraph tag as well, but we'll turn off all formatting except for the link format so that we can still turn the content into a link. So I think that's it for the structure. Next we need to add the styles, and I've gone ahead and created the styles ahead of time. Actually, I didn't create them. I copied them from Matt's article. I just changed them from, he had them in Sass, so I just changed them to regular CSS. But everything should be pretty much the same. I made a few minor little tweaks, and then I added a couple editor tweaks to get the block to look the same in the editor as it does on the front end. So let's hit save and try adding it to a page. So just refresh the page here, and let's add it. It's owl link. So here's our block. Give it some content. And we can enter a link. select an image. And let's see what it looks like on the front end. Just refresh the page here, and so here's our block. So one issue I see is that the read more link is not correct. It should be uppercase and bold. So let's fix that. Jump back over to the block editor. And I think what I forgot to do was add a class that he had. So let's look back at the article. And yeah, he had this owl link class. So let's add that. And let's take a look now. Okay, so now it's uppercased and bolded. So he also created this block so that the image was optional. And if we delete the image here and save it, the image component doesn't output any markup if there isn't an image selected. So it does look correct on the front end. However, if we jump back over to the back end, we do still see this image here, which isn't an accurate representation of how it would look on the front end. So let's fix that. What we can do is we can use a little bit of conditional logic, and what we'll do is we'll only output the image if we have an image selected or if the block is selected. So I'll add some conditions here. Let's see, I want this to be output if any of these conditions are true, and I want to say if the image ID, let's say, is greater than 0, which would mean an image has been selected. All image IDs will be greater than 0, so we know that'll pass. Let's add another condition. Block is selected equals true. So now this image should only be output if an image is selected, i.e. if there's an image ID greater than 0, or if the block is selected. So let's see how it looks now. Okay, so now we see the block, and it's we see a good preview of what it would look like on the front end. And if we click into it, we get our image, and we can assign an image. The other thing that he did too was he had two different style variations in addition to the option of the image being optional, of either showing a border or hiding a border. So let's go ahead and add the ability to do that. So the way he did it was he used style variations, which are a cool feature of blocks. Wicked Block Builder doesn't support block styles yet. However, we can accomplish this in a different way using conditions as well. So for this, I'm going to add another attribute to keep track of whether or not the border option is selected. So I'll call this border. And what I'm going to do is add a panel to the block sidebar. I'll call it settings. And then I'll add a radio button so we can select whether or not the block should have a border or not. And we'll call this one no border. And so I'll save just to show how this looks. It won't work just yet, but we can see how it's coming together. So now if we select the block and we look at the block sidebar, we have this settings panel that we've added, and we've got an option for border or no border. Doesn't do anything yet though, so let's change that. So what we can do to accomplish this is in his CSS, he had a class for if there's no border. So what we can do is conditionally add this class if the no border option is selected. So let's choose our wrapping div, and let's add a CSS class. So we'll add this no border class, but we'll add a condition so it is only output if the border attribute equals no border. So let's try it now. Okay, so now we have our option, and we can turn the border on or off, and if we delete the image, then this won't be here. It looks a little weird because I took out the padding, or I should say I added a background color, so I should have left the padding in. So it looks a little weird, but that's something we could fix. But so yeah, this is how the block looks now on the front end. And yeah, I think so. There's a couple of differences with how it was done here and how Matt did it. For example, I used just a rich text for the link here, which is a little bit different. He had actually added a little link button and then a field that you could type the link into. I think that's pretty cool. I think this works too because one nice thing about using the built-in link format is that by default it just pulls up the WordPress link selector, so you can still select a link, search for a link this way, and then it also has this option to open it in a new tab. So I think that works pretty well. If we wanted to, we could set this up differently. We could actually add a text field to the block, and then enter the text field, or enter the URL into the text field, and then just output the link as HTML. That would be another option that we could do using the builder as well. So a couple different ways to approach it. But anyways, just thought this was a fun challenge thought this would be a fun challenge to see if we could make a similar block. Thanks for watching.